International. He will be joining us online.
Thank you so much, Program Director. And today present, we are part and parcel of this engagement, tracking the impact of the fourth industrial revolution, what we think it will be the impact, and we're also going to be looking at the impact on the business, the economy, national and regional, global impact, and also the society. And I'm also going to give my predictions currently where we are in the fourth industrial revolution. So can you believe me? Can you believe with me that the COVID-19 has actually fueled the adoption of the fourth industrial revolution? And if you believe this, you will tell me as we proceed, as we track the future together. And do you think this will also fuel the adoption of the fifth industrial revolution, which is normally, or which is actually going to be looking at the personalization, which is the industry or the revolution or the evolution that really will require machines and humans to interact more frequently. If we track the future, starting from the first industrial revolution to the fifth, I'm going to focus more on the fifth and the fourth and the fifth revolutions. The fourth industrial revolution was looking at the digitalization, as we all know, and it was fueled by issues of artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and all the likes. But when you look at the fifth industrial revolution, the shape and the form that is taking, it's all innovation, purpose, and inclusivity. So we're talking about the issue of gender inclusivity. We're talking about the merge between the machines and the people, or the human intelligence. And when you look at the robotics that we used to talk about in the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and all that, in terms of the fifth industrial revolution, we're going to be looking at the deep collaboration or cooperation between people and machines, which I've already alluded to. So if we were to track the future from 2016 to 2015-2016, the introduction of the fourth industrial was given by the chairperson of the World Economic Forum. From the academia, from 2016 to 2019, there was an advance in the 4IR publications in terms of research that was undertaken. We still have a shortage of research because there are so many underlying issues that are not yet been covered for. For example, from a government perspective, we need to know if our policies are ready, because there is different types of structures that the government has put in place, including the fourth IR or the 4IR commission that has been appointed by the president of the country. So we need to know if this is in place so that we can move forward. So in 2019 and 2021, we have seen the acceleration of 4IR, because the global community was confronted by a pandemic, which required us to change our thinking and the way we do things. And of course, in 2021, moving forward, we looked at research on the on the fifth industrial revolution, and also the linkage to the previous revolution or the current revolution, which is the fourth industrial revolution. As we move forward now, the fourth industrial revolution, to me, it looked at, or it's actually government-led, but industry-driven. As a society, we were entering uncharted territories with many uncertainties. The complexity and the plurality of the 4IR advanced, things including the artificial intelligence and Internet of Things, working from home, changing the way we do things, adopting virtual offices, changing the banking systems, the introduction of banking apps and all that took place in this current revolution. We also look at the fundamental change in the way we live. And by 2030, which is about 8 years to come, 2 million jobs as we know today, they would have disappeared or changed, and 80% of those jobs will not exist in 2030. I'm sorry, I mean to say there will be new jobs, 60% of it that will be reinvented. But when you look at the fifth industrial revolution, the integration between the human and machines, personalization is key. Many people will work remotely or will regularly work remotely, adopting work from home policies and all that. The manual administration will be performed by machines. You heard the speaker, our speaker, Vusi Tembagwa, mentioned the fact that when he went to this country that he mentioned, there were only machines that performed everything that needed to be taking place. So the administration and everything that we do, for example, we won't require people like receptionists in the near future. Trust me, machines will be able to monitor and do the admin for us. Implantation technologies for health and other purposes will be widespread, leading to a healthier, longer living population, because there will be minimum interaction of people. There will not be diseases that will transfer to other people and all that. There will be minimal. 3D printing also will become more and more prevalent, and chat boxes, especially for websites, for communication and apps, will be the center of customer experience. So the integration, what will it require? It will require interconnection. It will require data. We talk about big data analytics. We talk about data-driven policies, data-driven researches, and evidence-based research, because the fifth industrial revolution will require a lot of data that will be interpreted. Even President Tembagwa also mentioned that data is our asset, is a strategic asset. It will be our currency in the future. So if you have data and you can interpret and use it efficiently, that will be your strategic asset that you can use to grow your business if you're in business, or you can better know your organization. Machines and human intelligence, also the integration that will take place, innovation. We cannot run away from innovation, more especially in the fifth industrial revolution. And of course, the transition that will take place will require us to merge between the two industries in the industrial revolution. So in terms of us to bridge the gap between the fourth industrial revolution and the fifth industrial revolution, there are three areas that we need to look for joint initiative or collaborations. These are the industry, the academia, and the government. And the reason why I put it like this in the tripartite type of scenario is because government should be, or actually has to, give us regulations, policies, and national strategy on how are we going to transition, because we cannot operate in silo mentality. So the government, as I said, the 4IR was government-led and industry-driven. So the regulation has to come from the government. So even when we transit to the fifth industrial revolution, we still need government to play its role. So you have the industry that is responsible for skills development, work readiness, and research and development and innovation. So the industry is responsible for upskilling, reskilling, and making sure that we have the relevant skills that are required for the fifth industrial revolution as we transit from the fourth industrial revolution to the fifth industrial revolution. The academia, applied research. Academics is no longer all about systems. It's no longer about putting, methodologies together. It's all about coming up with applied research that can work, knowledge generation that can work and can be implemented and can better our lives. Teaching and learning is something that the academia will have to forge ahead, more especially when we go to the fifth industrial revolution. And of course, as I said, government's role will have to unlock funding sources so that we are able to, so that academia and the industry are able to take and pick up and champion evidence-based research. They will have to set national priorities for South Africa, for example. Public and private research collaborations will be in place so that government will know what are the underlying problems that need to be taken care of, more especially when we chart our way to the fifth industrial revolution. Policies and regulation, I cannot overemphasize that. And the academia will look at research that has greater impact. Gone are the days where professors take time, 10 years or 20 years, researching about one problem that does not even have an effect in our lives. So we need greater impact from academia, and we need people to tune their mind and begin to focus on research that will give us greater impact. Publications and knowledge generation should also be part of the academia, as I've already said, and expanding teaching and learning, as I've already said. So in terms of the collaborative mindset, what needs to happen? Step number one, we need to assess the impact that the fifth industrial revolution will have on the future consultation through future consultations. And if you look at this could be something that Moses Kotane Institute, for example, champions as a way to understand the underlying principles, the readiness that need to take place so that we are able to go to step number two, which is to determine and compile research agendas and thematic areas. So what are the issues that we really need to look at? Are jobs going to be affected? Of course, yes, that will be part of it. Will the way we live be affected? Of course, yes, that will take place. Will the teaching and learning, change? Yes, of course. Teaching and learning is actually expanding. If you look at the way people are learning, the way universities are adopting new methodologies of teaching and learning, things are changing, and we need to come up and be prepared for us to look at what it really is going to help us as the country to move forward. Step number three, we will need to assign responsibilities. Currently, with the fourth industrial revolution, everyone is doing anything. Government is planning interactions like this and all that, and when we are done, no one knows what to do because we do not have assigned responsibilities that need to go to each party. So as part of the tripartite triple P, public, private, and partnerships, we need to understand that government, academia, and the industry need to have their plan. So if Moses Kotane champions this, what will be the role for academia? What will be the role for the industry, so that we know how to apportion and assign responsibilities? And of course, the step number four, will have to develop an action plan which will give us a monitoring system to track the progress of where we are, how far we're going, and the impact we are making in the lives of ordinary citizens in the country. So as we transit to the fifth industrial revolution from the fourth industrial revolution, we need to understand, like I've already indicated, that the educational system will have to bridge the gap between humanity and social science. Like we said, machines are now supposed to be interacting more regularly with people. This will strengthen knowledge sharing process, and as we transit from task-based to human-centered approach. Anything that happened, it still requires a human touch. So even if you have robotics or machines that are doing things, they need to be fixed by people, they have to be maintained by people, they have to be programmed by people. So people and human touch is still required. Human care is still required. We can put online systems in place, but we still require human to actually be at the center of everything. Many disciplinary fields, of course, in academia, will require convergence, especially if we want to align to the fifth industrial revolution that is coming. So the role of the higher education, in my opinion, is based on one, to commission impact-based, evidence-based research. They have to generate knowledge, prepare students for evolving industries, opening of new opportunities, innovation, and making sure that teaching and learning becomes flexible, especially to the alignment of the fourth industrial revolution to the fifth industrial revolution. So the higher education or universities and TVET colleges have a greater role to play, especially in preparing students for the evolving industries. So the jobs that appears today and the way they appear today will not be the same in the near, not so far future. And we need the roles that will be played by higher education to make sure that these things are in place to prepare our dear students as they graduate, to make sure that they go higher. So there's an expected change on how education discharge learning to its students and how it conducts research. I've already spoken about gone are the days where we commission and put resources to research that we cannot use its recommendation, we cannot use its findings, because its finding will not actually work for us. So we need research that will be discharged, that will take place, that will make sure that our students take evidence-based and they're taking impact-based sort of studies that are going to make a greater impact. We need to focus on the focus is ongoing and it's going to shift from modes of teaching to modes of learning for students. So the way we used to compile, even the South African qualification authority needs to change the way qualifications are being presented, because the way we're going and the way things are changing, it requires us to change the entire system. So the way we plan for our qualification, the way we plan for the teaching modes need to change from teaching modes to learning, so that we can, from the modes of teaching to the modes of learning, so that we understand what will be required for the fifth industrial revolution. Expected overhaul of existing curriculum, I've already said that, more especially when they're submitting new qualifications that are aligned to the fifth industrial revolution. Complete designing of new disciplines to service the technological advancement brought about the fourth industrial transit to the fifth industrial revolution. So of course, let's track together the impacts of the fifth industrial revolution. What will this have on the economy? This is based purely on the desktop study. So there's still more work that needs to be done, more especially looking at the impact on the economy, the impact on the business environment, the individual lives, society, national and regional and global communities. So when we look at the tracking for our economical impact, we have to start thinking about the growth of the economy, the aging of the economy, the productivity, the employment, the labor substitutions, the nature of work, since the types of work that we do has already begun to leave us. I can give an example. For the past 3 years, the banking industry has transformed. Banking employees, in fact, the banking industry is one of the industries that the sector that actually has lost so many people who are working there. And the problem is because there was no reskilling and upskilling to make sure that these people can adapt to the fourth industrial revolution. So even when we transit to the fifth industrial revolution, we still have a problem, because the labor substitution need to take place, the nature of work would have changed, and the employment stats will keep going down, because more people are losing jobs than more people getting jobs. So we need to find a way on creating an environment for employment to be, to thrive and to give opportunities and create more opportunities. More people should go to business. More people should adapt to emerging business. By the way, I say emerging business in the space for small and medium and whatever you call it, because I feel when you say small, you are actually micromanaging and you are actually putting them, they will remain small the rest of their lives. But once you say emerging businesses, you are giving them an opportunity to grow from there. Let's track together the business impact. So the customer expectations are now changing. That is why anyone who wants to buy anything, the first thing they do is to go online. If your product is not online, no one will have, that kind of zeal to go to the store and buy. The brick and mortar companies, business model is becoming faded, because people are now looking forward to customer expectations. Data enhanced products. Data, like I said, is the most important valuable asset an organization can have. Collaborative innovation and new operating models need to be in place because these are the impacts that we will have, or business will have, on the fifth industrial revolution. Of course, the national, regional and global community will have to be impacted. Governments will think, countries will have to think, different regions and cities. Smart cities are now a reality. So South Africa as a whole, we need to now start thinking, how do we transit and become a smart city? For example, international security, cyber security issues, e-commerce issues. What are we going to do? Ethical issues that we need to tackle that are going to impact the industry. And of course, the issue of the impact on the society, looking at the inequality, gender inequality, community identity theft, and all that, morality and ethics, human connection. Those are things that will impact in the fifth industrial revolution. And my predictions as I close is looking at from last year to 2027. These are my predictions. The COVID-19 has forced us to adopt the fourth industrial revolution. It has actually fast-tracked the policies, and we need to fast-track the policies and enable environment. I'm not sure if government is up to par with policies that need to be in place in making sure that the enabling environment for fourth IR thrives so that we can adopt the fifth industrial revolution. Industry needs to align to the 4IR by 2023, which is next year, and people are already starting to do that. Companies are now developing working from home policies and adopting it. Companies are now, using virtual environments and adopting to virtual, tools so that they can do their work. There's more things that are happening in 2024. I'm predicting that at least 10 to 30% of the work would have been transformed, skill development, because so many companies are now taking initiatives to make sure that this thing happen. Wide adoption of blended learning by institution. So many institutions are already taking place. If you look at University of Pretoria, University UKZN, and other universities that are already taking, blended learning methods, where there's online methods where if you miss a class, you can still go and check it online. There are blackboards. There are things that are being implemented by high institution of learning. So by 2025, I believe that there will be blended learning will be the thing to go. UNISA is completely online. If you look at UCT, the same model has been taking place. So other universities are also taking that. So by 2026, I'm predicting that the future of work would have been realized because there are so many opportunities that are coming up. Youth need to begin to take place. Need to take opportunities that are coming up and make sure that they change the way from employment seeking to business ventures, because there are so many things that we can do. And of course, by 2027, I predict that the business landscape would have aligned fully to the 4IR and given us a room to champion or adopt the fifth industrial revolution. Thank you so much, Program Director. I will end here.
Thank you again to Dr. Malapane. Just maybe to repeat that message we had a bit earlier. If there are any graduates within the room, to please just make their way to the back of the room. Ms. Norris is there at the back. She needs to just give you something. All right, to continue with the rest of our program, next we have a panel discussion with the topic 5IR in KZN, transition from digitization to personalization. I would like to call on stage our panelists. We do also have panelists who are joining us online. Dr. Yasira Ismail, if you could make your way to stage. Ms. Zama Dlamini, Mr. Vusi Mhlongo, and Mr. Pons, if you could make your way to stage. Mr. Pons will be facilitating the panel discussion. Online we do have Dr. Malapane, Dr. Iyalade, and Mr. Langa Zulu, who will also be joining the discussion online. If you could just give them a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, is this working? Not working. Hello, hello, testing, test. Mic, 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 mic. Mic, mic, mic. Is Mike here? Yes. Good. Thank you very much. As we move into the discussion period, please, I really love your innovative minds of the youth and the way you ask the particular questions. It's really totally amazing. I was dropped in to buy some food, and I was moving with my young kids, and I didn't have any money or any credit card on me, and it's like, well, how am I going to do this particular thing? Because I'm old, and that's what I think, you need money or a card. And my kid said to me, well, why don't you just use Zapper? You know, it's like, you think better than we do. You think better than we do. I love what Vusi said, think of the future, think of the future, think of where we want to go, think of the dreams, dreams, come up with those discussions, those particular questions. When I was a child, my big dream was to and I couldn't understand how it would happen, but when you had a telephone, you would be able to see the person on the other side of the telephone. That was totally amazing and out of this world. And so you have got those particular ideas, and so let's hear some of those particular ideas about the future technology that you would like. Would someone like to start?
And I think that it's so important to have these discussions. We all know about the fourth industrial revolution, and now we're starting this direction towards the fifth industrial revolution. And so we know we have to prepare ourselves. We not only have to prepare our mindset, but we have to prepare our skills. And the time to react is now. So looking at the audience, this is the youth we're looking at. And you know, the youth is at the imperative point where you are at that time of your life where you are looking for direction towards your career. You may want to work for someone or be an entrepreneur yourself. And the important thing is to identify the skills that is required to benefit from this fourth and fifth industrial revolution. And this is why we encourage the youth to ask questions, to be curious, to ask the right questions as well. And so, you know, we've been hearing throughout the session how technology is all about data, information. We also hear that everything is about IoT. I gave a talk on quantum. We also heard innovations and motivation. But where do you stand as the youth in that position? Or what is your perspective? And this is why we want to hear from you today. So the panelist is here to answer your questions, to basically help you plan out a future for yourself. So we encourage the audience to make use of this time and pose your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Ashman. I think just to add over and above what you're saying, I think skills are crucial in this time and area, and we have been engaged in one of the level summit whereby we were discussing with the universities on how they could feed onto the developments with regards to the technology evolution to change also the mindset of our youth that not only you need the technology or the computer science skills, you also need critical thinking skills so that you can always think outside the box.
Thank you so much, Program Director. For me, the transition from our fourth industrial revolution to the fifth as you may have grasped the concept of moving from digitization to humanization. As Africans, you know that humanity is one of the key concepts. So it is taking the technology which we have put trust or much trust to digital or to the systems themselves, taking that back to the people or to the humans. You know that any system or any digital robot or anything that has to do with systems, it usually have errors. So to me, taking that errors back to the people and making sure that it is controlled by us as people, it is crucial. And also opening opportunities to everybody, as my colleagues have mentioned. One of the key aspects that will enable all of this, it is definitely skills. So skilling people and making sure that they are ready for all the changes that are going ahead of us, it is very important. Thank you very much.
Can our online panel please make some comments, please?
It is very important. Thank you very much.
Can our online panel please make some comments, please? Great. So we'll wait for those questions to come through. Regarding the technology and adopting the new technology, as I say, that you have already adopted the technology, and we have this amazing power of the mobile particular phone that we have, and we have access to that particular technology. So based on the technology, and one of the great quotes that Dr. said is that the currency of the internet is going to be the data, and the currency of the internet is actually your privacy. So you're going to have to share more and more about yourselves so that the internet or those using the internet know about you, as long as you are open to that particular sharing of that particular information. So already you share the information is particularly needed, and linked to that, it will be the social media platforms that you will be using at this stage. So you may the youth is stuck a little bit on Instagram, unfortunately, and those of us who have been around a bit longer will know that your business future is often tightly linked to the commercial social networks such as LinkedIn. So my advice to you is to start a social media profile on your LinkedIn and start developing a social media profile to that, and through that you will gain networks. So already you understand the importance of networks. If you didn't understand the importance of networks, you wouldn't really be here today. You came here today so you could network with other people and understand it. But I do encourage you also to link your social media together with your particular field of interest. So if you do happen to be posting on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or any other ones, and in particular YouTube, I would imagine that you would be posting something that's relevant to your particular careers. So we'll stay on social media for this stage, and linking social media to the future of what you are doing. So if there are any other comments on that? Online comment, please.
Mr. Zulu.
No, we had audio issues a few moments ago, so yeah, but we now sorted. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation and thank you. Uh, okay, I'm just gonna continue. I think that there's the delay, so that's what is messing me up. But anyway, so yeah, well, I think a lot has been said about technologies and about the future and all of that, and I think it's all great and it's all good. And of course, we have to obviously focus on a lot of these things. I think a big section of the population right now, South Africa being largely youthful, full of young people. We do not get to participate on the third national revolution, for example. And when we woke up, there was a big talk about 4AR and that kind of stuff. And now it's like, oh, wait a minute. Now we're talking about fifth national revolution. But I think that the big emphasis should be on not necessarily on the technologies per se, or rather the obsession should not be about the technology. And that's what I think we believe in as Alco at Work Robotics Academy, because what we're essentially doing is to say, how do we develop the next generation of young people who are going to meaningfully contribute to their society, and think critically about the problems within the environment. And I think that's extremely important, because we want a generation of people who are going to be conscious, who are going to be aware of the dynamics around them. And that's where it starts. And that's where you start to look at things such as purpose, to say, well, in all of this noise, for AR, AI, and that kind of stuff, but what is my purpose? What am I here to do on this planet Earth? Why am I here? And I think that's extremely important, that we amplify those sort of conversations to say, young people today, I'm one myself, I've had to look at, why am I here? Why do I exist? And if you have to ask just a few young people, a few graduates, in the streets, to say, why do you exist? 4 out of 5 people are going to struggle to answer that question. So if you then going to have conversations such as artificial intelligence and all of that stuff to that person, then you realize that you're not going to have much progress. So I think the big emphasis should be then to say, how do we create an environment where young people, I can say, what are the problems around me? What are the things that frustrate me? And then what are then the resources and the tools which can assist for me to see progress, or for me to solve this particular problem? And that is where often you would then unlock economic opportunities. And I think that's the biggest problem that we have today, is because young people go to varsity and they amass their skills, their talent, knowledge, but because they are not aware, they're not conscious of their reality, of their dynamics, of their environment, they cannot meaningfully contribute to their society, to their environment, to their communities, with all the problems that we have in our townships, in our squatter camps, and all of that, in our economy, in our politics. Young people cannot contribute meaningfully to that conversation and say, what are the solutions that we can bring about in order to solve these social problems? But as we do that, we then create economic opportunities for ourselves as well as those around them.
All right. Is it my turn? Can you hear me? All right. Yeah. So for me, thank you so much for inviting me. When it comes to data and artificial intelligence, I believe that are going to save a lot of things in the future. And one thing that I think need, especially can you still hear me? I think I'm not sure whether okay. So one thing that I think we need, especially going forward, is we need leadership in this area, and especially because we need somebody that can create the guiding strategies, vision for how this thing is going to impact business, impact the society, and also how which direction do we want to go as a nation? Because without a national strategy, there is no purpose. There is no sense of purpose. People don't even know what to do, how to leverage on this technology for good. So I believe that one of the first things that we probably need is to have some leadership vision that captures some of the impact of this fourth industrial revolution, fifth industrial revolution, and then create some strategies for how we want to leverage on them for the common good. That's the first thing. Then the second thing for me is also we have to look at the impact, because whether we like it or not, the future of work is going to be impacted. There are some jobs that will disappear. There are some other jobs that will also appear. So that means there will be some economic impact on people. Remember, the fifth industrial revolution is all about people, focus on people, not the technology itself. So it means that we have to look at the risk and we have to look at the opportunity, because both are very important. So in terms of what are the jobs that we see that are going to disappear and what are the jobs that are emerging in the future, and try to work towards positioning people for that. Number three thing that I think is also important is we have to strategically channel resources towards investment in this area, because I believe that the opportunity is already there now for us to prepare for the future of work, for us to prepare for how these things can be leveraged onto our advantage. But it will require a lot of investment. So we will need to create maybe research fundings. We'll need to create even training, because I do training for people who have already finished university, but what they read in university, they can't even transition to the industry with it. So I do training in data analytics, data engineering, AI, and machine learning, and all of these things, because that is what the language that the industry is speaking. And many people don't have the skill set that is required to do that. So channeling our resources and investment into this area is very important. And number four thing that I think will help us is we need to mobilize our young generations to actually develop interest and also passion for work in this area. So because whether we like it or not, many of them are going to grow up with this technology, defining a lot of things that they do. And so they need to be involved for them to be able to leverage and take advantage of this technology. Those are the four basic things that I think we need to start working on if we are going to be at the forefront of the fourth and fifth industrial revolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
uh,
I didn't hear the question.
What this build-up of the industrial revolutions is that it has given us opportunity to also prepare for what could be next. So some of the skills that the fifth industrial revolution is going to need or is going to make use of has been prepared already during the fourth industrial revolution, as you may have had
So how do you get onto the pipeline? What is it? How do you do it? He was dropping some words over there, and I hope you were sort of taking note of the words, because I've already said to you, the first thing you have to work on is your CV, and I've also said to you, you need to work on your social media. And now I'm going to tell you this work of your value proposition, because you need to promote yourself. It's very important to promote yourself, and even if you're in research, if you're in innovation, if you're in research, you are going to need funding at some stage. And every single funding is going to say to you, what is your value proposition? What are you going to do with this? How are we going to help people? How are we going to make money for this particular thing? So the work that you should have done is like your PhD segment. Where are you going to start? How are you going to pick the low trees? How are you going to start making money? You should really, whatever you're doing, even if it's a CV or a job application, you should be doing a pitch deck as you're showing like what you can do, what you will do, where's this thing going, what is the future of this thing, and promote yourself. So those are the innovative sides of things. Within your fields, I always say, follow the money. Don't try and follow something that you're not going to get paid for, because you're highly educated and highly skilled people. So follow and open a career that has got some money and is able to help you out. So it could be in mining, it could be maritime, it could be agriculture, it could be some charities are able to help a lot. But certainly follow the money and do your preparation work. Once you've got your MSc or your PhD, it's not over there. One of the other panel members was saying, it's like I train people who have already got their degrees. Our guest speaker was saying, I'm doing a course. I was saying tender books. So we're not scared to carry on learning. Don't be scared to learn and
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the question, CEO. And the question was, what are sort of the businesses that young people can venture into in order to meet the demands of the 5AR? And I think and how would answer it, the question at Algorithm Robotics Academy, looking at our philosophy, is they do not have to meet the demands of 5IR. They don't have to meet the demands of 4IR and that kind of stuff. And so I'm not sure if you can see the screen I'm sharing here. I'm not sure if it's visible on the other side, but I want to talk about Alex Dodd, who is 14 years old. Alex Dodd is currently the #1 teen entrepreneur of the year 2020, 2021, 2022 in South Africa, according to Students Advancement for Global Entrepreneurship. We participated last year in a competition that was that had 4,200 participants across the country, young people, teenagers developing prototypes. Essentially, those are businesses of the future. And he came #1. And then further to that, he got 20,000 Rand funding to further develop his color conveyor belt, color and plastic sorter for the recycling environment. And perhaps you could argue to say those are the businesses of the future. Right here with me, I have also just some of the prototypes that are being developed by 13-year-olds. I'm not sure if you're gonna see much, but I'm just gonna try my best. And this is a smart case for body organs, an intelligent case for body organs, for to transport body organs from one hospital facility to the other, and it regulates. The idea is that it regulates temperature in transit intelligently. And this is a 13-year-old girl who is developing this prototype, Arduino-powered prototype. Again, you could say these are the businesses of the future. But I think the philosophy and what we focus on is to say, and I think what we all should focus on is to say, again, how do we enable young people for them, number one, to be conscious again of societal problems, because that's extremely important, because you want to ensure that young people focus on the things that matter, and then for them to say, how then do we develop solutions around these problems, and how do we develop prototypes, how do we develop robotic solutions, intelligent machines that are going to solve these complex problems in our society. That's extremely important that we drive that point to say that young people should not be deterred by hype, by jargon, but they need to focus on things of substance and ensuring that they unlock a better future for themselves, as well as for for those around them. So, if I can just share some of the businesses that are being developed at the academy. Ngubeko Gumede, 13-year-old again, developing an intelligent stick that has got AI capabilities for the blind. Walking stick. This is a walking stick for the blind. And what he looked at was, again, he identified this problem walking, and he saw this blind man and he said, what can I do in order to ensure that I enhance this tool, this technology that this man is using? And he came through and he said, this is what I want to work on. And from there, we started playing around with him, introducing him to Arduino sensors and that kind of stuff. And right now, he's adding the GPS module, panic button on his prototype. He's working on version 2 of his prototype, so that this walking stick can detect objects and be able to better guide, the blind. So those are sort of things that I think we have to focus on, to say that the social aspect is extremely important, but the social aspect is not everything. You also, of course, have to look at, how do I develop this into a business, or the business development process. But I think our approach is to say, first and foremost, let's look at the social aspect, and then from there, of the problem or the solution, and then from there we can look at the commercial viability of that particular aspect, which is essentially how a lot of research and development projects are handled. There's a lot of other prototypes that have been done before that have not seen the market, but one of the extremely important things to say, if they have the capabilities, they understand the process, then they could navigate in the future to say, okay, maybe this may not have worked, maybe this was not a success, but I could also try to do something like this because I've got the skill. I can code, I can work with sensors, I can work with 3D printers, I could use a laser cutter, I could 3D design, and therefore I could be in a position where I can develop a particular solution or a particular commercial opportunity for myself. So essentially, I think that's essentially how we say it play out, to say that we have to focus on the interpersonal side of things, obviously also coupling that with the technical aspect, so that then young people can have the ability to adapt in any environment that they may find themselves in the near future.
That was very informative. Are there any more questions from the floor, please? Thank you. There's a mic at the back, and 3 rows in front will be following up.
Thank you, Program Director. Let me start by thanking you the opportunity you've given us as listeners and people who are part and parcel of this sitting to have our views. My question would be strictly on what can we do in terms of assessing the impact of other revolutions? Because I think before we transit to the 5th industrial revolution, we should look into other revolutions and the impact they have had within our societies. If we look into them, what impact do they have? Because I think that's really important, because if we really want to solve issues which speaks to our society. We must make sure that each and every revolution that we've undergone has had a serious impact and has made an impact to our people, because at the center, institutions like Moses Kotane and others who are governmental instruments, they have a mandate to ensure that the issues within our society in terms of policies, they are addressed accordingly. So what have we done in terms of assessing the impact of other revolutions before we transit to this one? Because I think us being the first movers or the late movers doesn't have an impact if we don't have an actual impact to our people. Also, I'm very glad to hear that the fifth will be more based on what each person can do, because really technology is not where money is or us. Because I believe each and every discipline is important in the economy and can have a huge impact. If we can look into Brazil, Brazil is good in tourism and so on. So, and you look at others, they've looked their competitive advantage and they focus on that to make a meaningful impact to the lives of their citizens and to make sure that they uplift the standard of living of their people. So for us, it's also very crucial to first agree that each and every discipline is important so that we can manage to capitalize where we could do best. Another thing, are we really ready for this transition? Because that is another important thing. Are we really ready? Because I think it becomes important to check the state of readiness of our country. Because for me, I would say we are not even on 4IR looking at what we've achieved so far as an economy. Hence, COVID proven that we are not there, because a lot of battling people have had during that the pandemic. And another thing, I want to quote or look into or reflect to what our keynote speaker had said. Let us not focus on the past. However, I believe whenever we had an accident, we can't just say an accident has happened, so let me write over everyone and continue looking forward. We must have a process where we heal. I think South Africans, the process where we failed to impact ourselves onto was the healing process. Apartheid happened, that was the past. But the healing process, that is what has kept us in where we are. It has long overdue. Now, what can we do to mend the situation? Hence, that is why many people will say we are a happy generation we are a set generation with happy pictures. Because we are stuck. The healing process was not Jew speaking to us and was not done in a correct way. Hence, that's why you'd see so much problem. So that's why I believe if we really want to look forward, we can't forget what has happened, but we must make sure that the healing process becomes part and parcel of us. Then that's where you can fast track and move forward effectively and efficient. And most importantly, one of our leaders once said, each and every generation has its own mission. So it's up to them whether they betray it or they execute the mission. So for us,
all right.
the economical that we must execute. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's head back to the panel and see if we can tackle some of those questions.
Okay, so let me start with, are we really taking the opportunity of the fourth industrial revolution? So I agree that to some extent, yes, not everyone in society understands what the true fourth industrial revolution is, or what are the opportunities of the fourth industrial revolution. And so this comes to education. We need to educate society. And it is us as key role players. We can be ambassadors for the sector to actually educate each other on what the fourth industrial revolution is and what are the opportunities of the fourth industrial revolution, so we can make use of it. So that I do agree, education is key here to drive and to understand the fourth industrial revolution. Whether we've impacted on it, South Africa has missed a lot of opportunities that came from the first three industrial revolution. Doesn't mean it hasn't impacted globally. We see the global diversity of technology that has spanned out due to the different industrial revolutions. The semiconductor industry, unfortunately, we weren't able to fabricate in South Africa. However, that industry, if it was not possible for the semiconductor industry, we won't even have cell phones in our back pockets. The power of our ability to communicate. We have to actually pay due diligence to ensure that we don't miss the current revolution, as well as the future one, which is the fifth one that we're transitioning to. And this is where we need to encourage collaborations. We need to speak to each other. We need to get key stakeholders to speak to each other, so that not just ideas, but investment goes into the development of these industrial revolutions.
Thank you so much for the mouthful of questions. I'll try to answer some of them, starting with the one that was asking about the readiness, and also looking at the one that was focusing on the impact of the 4IR. One of the things that we are currently, or one of the research that we're currently running as the Moses Kotane Institute right now, is doing exactly that, checking on the impact, or where are we with regards to the 4IR as the province. So we are finalizing that research, but that does not stop us to question some of the emerging technologies such as 5IR. So while we are closing off, or while we are checking our journey of adopting 4IR as a province, it is imperative that we also understand what is ahead of us, looking at how we should prepare ourselves to adopt the 5IR. And then I can't remember, most of the questions I got lost into the line, or into the thoughts that you were bringing forth. But that's where we are as the MKI.
Thank you, Zama. I think we'll take one more question from the floor before we continue with our program.
So my question is that where do we actually draw a line between preserving African culture and also adopting the ever-changing technologies? Why I'm saying that is because I believe that there is a good story to adopt from Africanization, such as the spirit of Ubuntu, which can only be experienced through human-to-human interaction, as we say, umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. Now, if we are moving to a more even advanced technology, to the point of having robotic nurses, if I make an example, whereby we are served by the robots. I'm not saying that technology is bad. Hear me clearly. I'm one of those people who are still behind and who still believe in the Africanization and the traditional ways of doing things. And I'm one of those who are resistant to technology. And I think this is a rebirth for me to have this conversation, you know. At my age, of course, you'll think that I'm more technology advanced, but I'm not. So therefore, if we have got young people like me at the fourth industrial revolution, already into the transition of the fifth one, but we are still resistant. Now, because I'm one of those people who believe in Africanization and preserving of African culture. So we are talking of right now at the high institution, the decolonization of curriculum, because we are moving to a more decentralization and African scholarship. Now, how do you balance the two and draw a line that we don't lose that good story to hold on from the African sense of things to a more globalized world? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Maybe just I'll just narrow it down. As MKI, we have fostered innovation, and one of our innovators that developed a data collection tool, we have been able to link in with some sangomas. Sorry to use the word sangomas. How it's going to happen was that these innovators would develop an app that will assist people that are in need of those services, irrespective of the area. So the app is going to be developed in isiZulu, and most of the things that are going to be loaded onto the app are related into the Zulu tradition. So that is one of the initiatives that we are doing as MKI. Though there is still a gap, but we are working on closing that gap. Thank you.
There is one more question. This is the final question before we move on.
It's actually not a question, but it's a comment. I heard a question talking about how do we heal in order to move forward, because we're coming from the past and we are now talking about the future, but we have not healed. I just want to comment and say that healing is an individual process. I think we must forget about the idea that we will ever heal as a collective, that we will ever heal as a group in a country, because healing is an individual process and healing has got different stages. The question is, at what stage are you as an individual in terms of healing? So healing is a mindset that we need to adopt as individuals to move forward. And then as a collective, we'll combine all of our healing to progress the country. I think that's what I would like to say. I know that politically it is expected that people heal as a group, but practically it's not going to happen. And I think we need to be practical and we need to be realistic. And then the question of Africanism, the question that we can ask ourselves is, what is Africanism? Are you African because you are born in Africa, or are you African because you are black in terms of race? What is Africanism? If you think about it, innovation has always been in existence. So it would be untrue to assume that Africanism is primitive and is not equated to innovation, because this is why they praise King Shaka Zulu for his innovativeness, because he innovated on a system of fighting, I think, the British or the Europeans, let me put it that way. He innovated on a system of a spear. There's a lot of innovation that happened in the future. Does that mean that Shaka was not technologically advanced? Of course, he was technologically advanced. So Africanism and technology, in my view, are equal, are on the same footing. So the question is, how do we use technology to advance our Africanism? I think that is where we are, and that's the mindset that we need to adopt. By technology, we do not mean coding, we do not mean programming, but we can say, for an example, let's use the existing platforms that we have to advance our indigenous knowledge, to keep our indigenous knowledge, develop systems that will preserve our Africanism. How do we compete globally using technology and systems as Africans? Because if we do not do that, we will always remain a dark continent. If we think that if we don't latch on to technology, we are preserving our system, we are wrong. We cannot preserve our systems and our indigenous knowledge by not latching on or getting into the technological advancement wagon. And I'm saying here today that technology and Africanism are equated, and in order to be competing globally as Africans, we need to change our mindset and be advanced technologically. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. I think it's been a very important and engaging dialogue in terms of where we are and how do we get there. We will now move on to the next part of our program. I'd like to thank the panel for engaging with us and going through the discussion. We are moving on to the next part of our program, which is one of the important reasons why we are here, which is to honor and celebrate the research graduates who have completed their qualifications and who have been funded by the Moses Kotane Institute. So what we will do now, I will be calling on stage Dr. Simpiwe Buthelezi, as well as our CEO, to just congratulate the graduates. But firstly, Dr. Simpiwe, if you could just come on stage and give us your presentation. Thank you.
I'm assuming it's good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Program Director. I will wait for my presentation to show on screen and then I can proceed. I think my job is the best job for today because I get to celebrate success. We get to celebrate our graduates who have worked tirelessly to get to where they are today. So as I start with the presentation, I will first highlight what Moses Kotane is all about and how we came about to actually have these graduates today in terms of supporting them financially in order to ensure that they succeed in their respective disciplines and careers. So Moses Kotane is the entity of the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs. We are mandated to conduct research for the province in order to attain sustainable economic development. So in terms of the services that we offer, we conduct research, so we have an R&D program. We have econometrics as well as statistics program. We do the evaluation of strategic government interventions. We coordinate various activities that are related to various strategic sectors, and also we do knowledge management. I've already indicated that our vision is to conduct research and want to be perceived as leaders in terms of conducting research and development in the province. In terms of our values as an organization, it's integrity, which is what we've spoken about, Ubuntu, professionalism, as well as quality. So why do we do what we do as the organization? Moses Kotane conducts research in order to address the triple challenge of unemployment, poverty, as well as inequality. The research that we don't conduct blue sky research. However, we conduct research that assists in addressing the challenges that I've mentioned, and also the research that will inform the interventions as well as the programs for the province. It is important that all the interventions that the provincial government comes up with are based on sound data, sound evidence, and are backed by research. That is why we exist. In terms of our focus areas or key strategic sectors where we conduct research in agriculture, manufacturing, green economy, tourism, ICT, maritime, you name it, we do it. And then we have partnerships and clients that we conduct research for, and these are in different sectors, both public as well as private sector. We work very closely with academia and also ensure that we address the needs of the general public. That is why we exist, and that is why conducting research is so important for the province. I know everyone is interested to find out how the research fund works and how we actually select graduates that we fund year in and year out. As a way of a summary, for this year alone, we're funding about 110 students for the research fund. 110. And out of those students that I've highlighted, 40 of them are doing their doctoral studies. 40. And then 61 conducting their masters, and then 3 honors, and we have 6 undergraduates. Some people that applied for the research fund did not get accepted into the MKI program, not because their proposals were not up to par with what we are looking for. However, we're very specific. Remember, I started by highlighting the strategic sectors where we conduct research. So the research that is being conducted by our students needs to be aligned or on par with what MKI is working on. So we can't be conducting research on renewable energy and then you come and you say you're going to do research on frogs. It's not aligned. So some of people that were not accepted into the programs or were not given funding, it's because there is a misalignment between what we requested versus what they submitted. So some of the sectors that we wanted research conducted on include transports and logistics, ICT, renewable energy, cannabis, future industries, and so forth. If your proposal was well written and in line with all these sectors that I've highlighted, chances of getting funding increase drastically as compared to a person who just submitted a proposal that does not even feature in any of those sectors that I've highlighted. Now, I indicated that my job is the best job for today. I won't talk about the 5th Industrial Revolution or 4th Industrial Revolution. However, I'm going to talk about how proud we are as MKI to have students that are graduating with their PhDs or doctoral degrees. So for this year, for the class of 2021, 4 students graduated for their doctoral studies, 14 for their masters, and we have 1 student that graduated for their honors degree. You guys deserve a round of applause. This is testament to how beneficial the MKI Research Fund has been, because if these students were not supported, I doubted very much that today we'll have 4 students out of the cohort that we funded graduating with doctoral degrees, and 14 with master's degrees. So I'll highlight right now in terms of the research topics that the students that obtained their PhDs were focusing on. The first one was looking at environmental vulnerability and economic implications of climate change on tourism development in the Central Drakensberg region in KZN. And that study was conducted by Nduduzo Ngongo. The next person is Bonga Louis Ngobo, conducted a research looking at innovative, sustainable practices to enhance quality yields in solanaceous crops of green economy. The third one is the development of green banana flower, which was conducted by Pindile Faith Ndlovu. The fourth one focused on ecotourism as a mechanism of local economic development in the communities adjacent to the Oribi Gorge Nature Reserve. That was conducted by Tembinkosi Keith Gumete. Thank you. I will not read all the topics for the master's graduates, but they are all highlighted on the screen, and we congratulate the entire class of 2021. Before I move on to the important parts of awarding the actual certificates and gifts for our graduates, I'll call onto the stage our CEO, Dr. Sandika Ellenson, to assist me with the issuing of the certificates to the graduates that are present today. Please note that some of the students are attending virtually, so they will not be able to collect their certificates. However, everyone that is graduating today will get what is due to them, which is a certificate as well as a token of our appreciation as Moses Kotane for ensuring that they represent us well and also for ensuring that they deliver on what we expected. When we found graduates, we found them with the intention of ensuring that they complete their studies and they complete their studies within a stipulated time frame. So we know that PhD is 3 years. Graduate, PhD is 3 years, not 5. And then we know that master's is 2 years, honors is 1 year, and an undergrad is 3 years. You're not doing anyone any favors by taking longer to complete your studies because you are occupying a space that should be occupied by someone else. So by you remaining in that PhD for 5-6 years, it means we would have funded 2 or 3 more students, which is not fair. So can we commit in ensuring that we complete our studies in due course? On top of what we are trying to do to support the graduates, MKI has come up with a system to support graduates in terms of mentorship. We've seen the panel and we've heard the panel discussing how important it is to get a mentor in your field of study. So we are trying to ensure that we facilitate and assist in any way possible for you to complete your studies within that stipulated time frame. CEO, I will start with the PhDs and then I will move on to our masters. The first person is... No, it's fine. I'm already wearing a red coat. The first person is Nduduzo Andreas Ngongo from DUT. Is Nduduzo here with us today? Doesn't look like it. Thank you. Okay. The next person is Bonga Louis Ngobo. Congratulations. You can go to the CEO. The next person is Precious Konzile Tiane. The next person is Simpiwe Ntokozo Ngwenya. The next person is Mlungisi Hopwell Nyandu. Congratulations. The next person is Langa Kazimulo. The next person is Mzwandile Refuge Kaba. Congratulations. As part of the gifts that the students will be receiving, all the graduates will be receiving, it's a Samsung tablet for you to be able to write those business plans, for you to be able to write those publications that MKI is looking for, and ensure that you are able to progress in your respective careers. My job today is done, but in closing, I would like to end with Dr. Nelson Mandela's quote. He said, "Education is a powerful engine of personal development. It is through education that a daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that a son of mine workers can become the head of the mines, and that a child of farm workers can become a president of this great nation." Congratulations again, class of 21.
Thank you again. Congratulations to the graduates. Well done on achieving your qualifications. And think just to now go on to the next part of the program, which is to now speak to the ones who are still in the process of completing their qualifications. I will call on stage Dr. Ngema from the Moses Kotane Institute, who will give us a briefing the new candidates about the journey that they are about to embark on. If you can just welcome on stage Dr. Ngema. And just a notice, straight after this, we will go on to have a small break at lunch and then continue with the program.
Thank you, Program Director. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. For me, I'll do a quick briefing to our new research fund candidates. Excuse me. There are three important things that I would like to highlight, but just highlighting something from Dr. Telezi's presentation is that when we fund students, when we fund master student, we commit to 2 years. When we fund PhD student, we commit to 3 years. So what I'll try and highlight here is the importance of the progress report, and also the importance of meeting the deadline when you have to submit the progress report, and also the budget breakdown. So perhaps just to emphasize on those 3 points, the new candidates, they are not familiar as to how this process will go about. Since we have committed to support you for the next 2 or 3 years, then you have to submit a progress report that states how far you have gone with your research project, and also explain or emphasize or justify the challenges that you may have. So, and also you have to indicate under the budget breakdown that how much you need for the specific item, such as your experiments, traveling cost, and accommodation. So I'll go straight to the importance of progress report. Of course, what we would like to know is the progress, whether you're making any progress with your project, and whether, in terms of what you have done, what are your findings? Are they speaking to your objectives? And also, because we know research, when it comes to research, as much as you might have proposed something in your research, the challenges that you may encounter, you find out that the methodology that you are using, it does not work for your research studies. So you may perhaps change the research topic and other things. So in the progress report, you must indicate all these things. You must indicate that what are the challenges that you are facing, and also indicate how you're going to go about addressing those challenges. And also because, as Dr. Patel has indicated, you have a limited time in terms of funding, so you have to complete your research in time. But more than anything else, it is of critical importance that you submit your progress report in time, because when you're doing that, you're affording yourself an opportunity to be funded for the next year, because if there's no progress report, you will not receive any funding. And also it is important that you submit your progress report in time, simply because it also allows MKI to release your funds in time, because when you submit your progress report, there is a committee that has to go through your progress report, review, and also see how you're making progress in terms of your studies. So the last part is the budget breakdown. So with this one, when it comes to the new research candidates, they may not really be familiar with this, but what I would try to emphasize here is that your budget breakdown must always be linked to your research plans. So what I mean with that, for an example, when you submit your progress report, under your progress you indicate that a certain aspect has been completed, such as data collection, but however, under your budget breakdown, you still require a certain amount for data collection. So that means there is a mismatch, and we may have a problem to even just give you that funding, since on the report itself, you're reporting something else, but on the budget breakdown, you are requesting for the item that has been completed. So it is important that you keep in check with whatever that you're reporting in your progress report, and it must connect with your budget breakdown. And another thing, when you now indicate the items that you need funding for, we know that some you are in different fields, of course, but when you say you're going to do an experiment, we have an idea that you do an experiment, but what is it that you need? Because saying you do an experiment, it requires this amount. It does not give us that clarity that you exactly need that amount. But if you're going to break it down to certain items, then it will make sense, and we'll be able to fund you in that aspect. So what I mean with that, so in a case where you know your experiment may cost 20,000 Rand, but for you to conduct that experiment, you need a certain item. I made an example of an ELISA kit. You know, it can be 15,000. And you know, there are chemicals that you need. Maybe they cost 5,000 Rand. So that's how you should break it down, so that it makes things easy for the reviewers to ascertain that, yes, actually, you really require this funding. So that's all I wanted to highlight. And if you have any questions in the breakaway sessions, you may ask questions from your respective mentors. I'll also be available during the networking session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ngema. We will move on to now, I think the session we've all been waiting for. I'm just joking. We will break now for lunch. And after lunch, we will like for the new research candidates to meet their mentors. That some will be in this room and some will be in the room next door, which is room number 5. Lunch will be served in room number 4. So if we can break for lunch. And then for the students who were graduating, if you could come to stage with your gowns, so we can just have a quick photo shoot. And then we can come back and reconvene after lunch at, let's say, at 2. That's only That's only for the new research candidates. The rest are free to leave. And for those who were joining us online, we will now end the streaming and just have a briefing session for the new research candidates. So thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who took time to come and listen to this discussion. And thank you to everyone who joined online and our panelists as well and our speakers. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.